Bay and hoodlums attack anti-Ganduje protesters. Details now. The World News at 6 begins with the dramatic scene unfolding at the Federal High Court in Abuja today when Tigran Gambarian, a detained executive of Binance, suddenly slumped in court due to alleged ill health. VOP News understands that this incident occurred shortly after Justice Emeka Nwite called the matter for trial continuation. As the case was called by the court registrar, Gambarian failed to step forward to the dock from the back row seat where he was seated. Justice Nwite then inquired about the whereabouts of the second defendant, Gambarian, and one of the lawyers in the defense team who was sitting beside him assisted him to the dock. However, as he walked slowly to the dock, Gambarian fell down and the lawyer helped him sit in the front row seat. Gambarian's lawyer, Mark Mordi, senior advocate of Nigeria, explained to the court that his client had been indisposed and that a written application letter had been filed to notify the court of his failing health. Throughout the proceeding, Gambarian rested on the arm of the seat where he was sitting, appearing visibly unwell. You would recall that Justice Nwite had earlier dismissed Gambarian's bail application on May 16, citing that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission had established that the defendant, who is currently being remanded at Kuje Correctional Center, would likely jump bail if granted. Additionally, the alleged tax evasion charge filed by the Federal Inland Revenue Service against Binance Holdings Limited and Gambarian could not proceed on Wednesday due to his absence in court. Meanwhile, Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf has approved the reappointment of Emir Muhammadu Sanusi II as Emir of Kano under the new laws. The governor has given former emirs 48 hours to vacate their palaces and hand over emirate council properties to the Commissioner of Local Government, who also serves as State Deputy Governor. Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf of Kano State has signed the Kano Emirates Bill 2024 into law, repealing the 2019 Emirate Council's law that altered the state's over 1,000-year history. Meanwhile, opposition members in the Kano State House of Assembly, led by Minority Whip Ayuba Labaran, representing Cabo APC, have opposed a move by the State Assembly to sack 5 emirs. VOP News gathered that Labaran, in a protest over the Assembly move, staged a walkout from the chamber in Kano today. The lawmakers who spoke would claim that the move was for selfish interest. The Minority Whip added that the previous administration created the Emirates to foster unity and development. The Kano State House of Assembly had earlier repealed the Kano Emirates Council Law 2019, which established Bichi, Gaya, Karaye, and Rano Emirates from the then Kano Emirate. The lawmakers repealed the Emirates law at a special plenary presided over by the Speaker, Jibril Falguri. The Deputy Speaker, Mohammed Butu, in a contribution explained that the repealing the law would revive the lost glory of Kano. He said that the division of Kano Emirate into 5 emirates damaged the capacity and dignity of the emirate and the state. The majority leader, Lawan Husseini, added that the Emirate Council was a custodian of culture of the Kano people, which was distorted by the creation of the additional emirates. About 45 ministers were appointed after a thorough screening exercise by the Nigerian Senate. During their inauguration, President Tinubu charged them with enormous responsibility for developing policies that would significantly impact the lives of hundreds of millions of Nigerians. He also urged them to hold each other accountable for meeting the expectations of all Nigerians. Subsequently, the ministers were made to sign a performance bond with the president, which details what is expected of the ministers and would also be used to track their performance. It is being advocated that the president would rejig his cabinet by dropping some of the low-performing ministers. However, speaking at a ministerial briefing on Wednesday, Alhaji Muhammad Idris, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, stated that the ministers are expected to begin the reviews today, being Thursday, May 23, 2024, for better efficiency, adding that the reviews would give accountability to the citizens. The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, during the Ministerial Performance Update, promised to begin the process of building 10,000 houses for the masses in his next budget. He condemned the high cost of accommodation in the territory, lamenting that some businessmen who got 3 acres of land in the past to embark on mass housing projects now sell to people at exorbitant prices, as well as a problem of insecurity. Let's take a listen to Nyesom Wike, the FCT Minister, today during the performance review.
All of us know that every ministry are all under the TSA. And we found out that one of the problems inhibiting infrastructural growth in FCT is being under the TSA. Because as you're under the TSA, you are not involved in the wider financial market. You are restricted. We can't even utilize our IGR the way it's supposed to be. Mr. President approved that we should pull out from the TSA. And today, we are not longer under the TSA. And I will tell you how this has helped us to do certain things people think is a miracle. It's not a miracle. Completion of ongoing projects. I hope the head of service, I hope there's plan to. Okay. No, I'm not going to read from that. So if you are looking at that, I'm not going to read from that. I have only 20 minutes. Now, let me take the issue of security. That is why you don't need to follow what is there. Let me take the issue of security, which is very, very important. Security is one of the priorities of this present government. How was Abuja before? All of us will attest to the fact. Every day one kidnapping or the other. Every day bandits have attacked. Every night one chance. So we came on board. What did we do? We said the first thing we must do is to make sure that residents, council areas, know what government is doing. And government should also be able to tell them what are their own contribution, what are the problems they face. We went to round the 6 area councils and had interactions with the people.
And that was the Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, given his own projections during the ministerial review meeting today. He condemned the high cost of accommodation in the territory, lamenting that some businessmen who got 3 acres of land in the past to embark on mass housing projects now sell to people at exorbitant prices. He also stated that he called, the National Assembly to review the law against vandalism in the FCT, adding that measure fines provided in the extant laws cannot deter criminals from continuing with their nefarious activities. You're currently listening to the World News at 6 on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. We take a very short break. When we return, we'll do more news and head into a news analysis segment. We actually have my analyst right here in the studio who will be dissecting some of the stories just read out on the World News at 6. To stay with us. Welcome back. You're still on to the World News at 6 on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. A more news report, a former deputy chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Bode George, has asked President Bola Tinubu to disclose to Nigerians the true position of Nigeria's economy. He insisted that the problems plaguing the country is huge and there is a need to address the situation. The elder statesman said this while assessing Tinubu's 1 year in office. Speaking during a press conference today, George urged Nigerians to give Tinubu more time, as 1 year is not enough to give a comprehensive assessment of his administration. He noted that Tinubu may not be totally held accountable for the crisis in the country, adding that the situation in the country has been brewing between 2015 and 2023 during the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari. He noted that the Nigerian state almost collapsed because the 8-year era was probably the worst in Nigeria's history since 1960. In a recent development, a bill for an act to revert to the old national anthem has passed first, second, and third readings in the House of Representatives. The bill was sponsored by the leader of the House, Julius Ihobere, during plenary today in Abuja. Leading the debate on the general principle of the bill, the lawmakers said that the current national anthem was not helping. He added that there was a need to go back to the old national anthem, whose wordings were more patriotic. Ihobere said, and I quote, "Going back to memory lane to a time in history when things were done in a proper manner, the old national anthem helped Nigerians be more patriotic. The bill will bring us together and give us hope and courage, a sense of duty to the nation that does not necessarily deny the reality, and that is the maintenance of contemporary societies." According to him, there are those that deny reality and pretend racism does not exist, ethnicity doesn't exist, poverty does not exist. Contributing to the debate, Kingsley Chinda said, "We are taking ourselves back to the old national anthem instantly. I will ask again, is this bill important at this particular time in our national lives? What value will it add to us as a nation? These questions need to be answered." He added the Nigerians were looking up to the House for more fundamental issues that would cause proper change. Chinda also stated that we are about to make history, so I stand as a Nigerian to say no to this bill. I pray that we look at it critically and urge the sponsor to withdraw this bill. However, supporting the bill, argument ensued on the Arise O Compatriot anthem had not benefited the country. He said Nigerians were not living in tune with the wording of the anthem. Well, let's head on into a news analysis segment. We actually have right here in the studio Are Oladotun Hassan. He is the NBA Secretary per branch. He's also a political and national affairs commentator. Are, good evening, and thank you for joining me on the World News at 6.
Yes, good evening. It's a pleasure to be here.
Unfortunately, most time that we want to have conversations right here in the studio, there's usually not enough time on the World News. But I'm going to start off with this. All right, do you know the old national anthem? This particular anthem that caused a row at the House of Representatives today.
Yes, the interesting thing is that majority of us that are comrade in university sing the old national anthem.
Okay,
Nigeria, we hail our own dear native land, though tribes and tongues may differ, in brotherhood we stand. So, but be that is made is because we lack history. They are no longer teaching history. We don't even have value for our country. So what the National Assembly members are just trying to pick holes, are not even beating on the real issue. I must commend Honorable Chinda for countering it. These are just mere things that can be taught at the elementary stage and imbibed in our curriculum. So there need not be cancellation of one, because even in Nigeria, the Arise O Compatriot, it's more elevating to energize citizens and be more patriotic. So either of the anthem, they are both good, but they need to be carried on pari passu. Nigerians should read both pari passu, so it can be done pari passu, but not the shutting down of one at the expense. Even the members of the National Assembly, many of them carried the national anthem. We saw, sorry to say this, at a public function, we saw how a police woman cannot be able to even read the national anthem. So it's one of the appalling things that we don't teach history, and the National Assembly should get their ass right together. This sponsoring all manners of bill should be cautiously guided against, because what we need now are bills that are in tandem with our economic value that are in tandem to take us out of poverty.
All right. So that's basically the crux of the conversation. Nigerians are suffering, like literally, Aaron, you have no idea how bad things are. I don't know if you understand, if you go to major communities, I'm not talking about even what you call low residing areas. Even the high-rise areas in Lagos State, let me use Lagos because we're situated in Lagos at the moment. It's hard. Amnesty International recently reported, I don't even want to rely on what Amnesty International actually said because this is what we're experiencing daily. There's a skyrocketing inflation in Nigeria. Citizens are suffering one of the worst post-independent economic crises under this administration. Human rights organizations raise the alarm over the increasing cost of living that has met many citizens unable to meet basic needs under this administration. No food, high cost of transportation, job losses, the labor market is now saturated, tuition fees have become more expensive, most companies are not increasing salaries, fintech companies have closed up. In fact, I cannot tell you how many fintech companies have closed up. And in the House, what they're deliberating on is what national anthem is more important than the other, referring to go back to the old national anthem. How is that a cause for conversation when in a few days' time, May 29, right, will be clocked, handover date, and I thought the House would be deliberating on the issues that Nigerians have been lamenting about and how to create palliative measures to, facilitate the palliative measures. How do you see this? How do you see this happening?
I will not be quick to just restrict the blame on the present administration.
Why would you not? Is it because of what Body George just said?
No. Okay. Let me just tell you this. We have lacked the primary objective of nation building ab initio.
All right.
And our democracy since 1999 is predicated on the walls of the constitution. We are still leaning on the decree 24 of the Abdulsalami constitution. And how do you expect a country to grow out of the woods of such nature? We are just experimenting our living together. We are not yet practicing real democracy the way it ought to be. And that is why the political gladiators have ruined us since, in fact, for the past 30 years, even from military era till date, we are yet to recover from our poverty line. And we have just been nosediving ever since then. So the grand cumulative poverty scenarios that we have been through, pains and harsh policy conditions from military to various successive government. Maybe you've forgotten so easily that under Obasanjo we faced a lot of economic woes and crises. Under the Jonathan era, a whole lot of money were being squandered. Under the Buhari-led administration, we had the worst of economic quagmire, and that till date is part of still permeating in the system. So if we must really get it right, then let's begin to see solutions, because in as much as the present administration has equally hardened more to our body, and it started with the removal of the fuel subsidy, and that is yet to recoup the economy back. While we are suffering, trying to get our feet, we met another resistance from poverty that we are not going to escape with the electricity tariff. So when we'll continue to have benefit for democracy, it's not about the fact that at least we have the Labour Party in the House, we have the PDP, this is democracy. It's from the local government, state, and national. We are not just talking about federal government here.
All right.
People don't, a lot of our elected officials don't value what our terms and rights really
is all
interpret.
About. All right, let me head on to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration. It's quite important for us to bring in that. The president said that his ministers would reflect the renewed hope agenda. And here is the thing. The renewed hope agenda had a renewed hope infrastructure development fund. This development fund is meant to mobilize billions of dollars for infrastructure projects that will reshape the country's landscape, which is like our roads, highways, airports, seaports, power plants, and so on. And it equally explains the constant engagement with local and foreign investors, which the president plays the role of chief marketing officer with great energy and enthusiasm. Now, with all of this said, the idea was to provide direct, targeted economic relief and benefit to the pockets and livelihoods of Nigerians. With this renewed hope agenda, the renewed hope Infrastructure Trust Fund and the current Nigerian economic reality, are you not seeing that dichotomy? Are we seeing a reflection of what the Renewed Hope agenda promised? Are we seeing a reflection of that particular trust fund? Recall just last week or 2 weeks ago, the federal government was stating to borrow 20 trillion naira from pensioners for infrastructural projects.
Well, to me, I believe there is no proper adequate planning in the way we are really managing our economy, especially from the way we wake up to just hear 20 trillion coming out from pensions fund to fund project, which is really, to me, is unconstitutional, because without you having a proper budget, which we can't even define where and how our budget is, which lifeline are we really running on, aside the fact that the Renewed Hope agenda trust fund is a policy of government. It's not the proper modus operandi of expenditure, because what should be appropriated for should be appropriated and designated to each ministries. And if there is a need for special money, we have the Sovereign Wealth Fund.
Exactly.
So there should be some economic intervention funds. But these economic interventions fund, let me remind you, in the recent time, we've recovered a lot of looted funds.
Okay.
But unfortunately and regrettably, these looted funds are relooted, and we are not seeing any manifestation. Also, we also need to see some reasons, because the present administration increased by tripling the state-generated allocation, monthly allocation, in order to give better life to the people. But do you know that our state governors and our local government do not even reflect that at all in any of our infrastructure?
That's what my next question
then
is.
who is now to blame?
So that's where my next question is coming from. Everything is being targeted at the federal level.
Yes, because that's a mindset.
The president said that this particular May 29 handover date will be done low-key. And it is obvious there was a reason why he asked all the ministers to start stating their review, meaning give us what you have been able to do in the sector you were assigned. What have you done in these few months, and what next do you intend to do? So let Nigerians decide for themselves if these ministers are keeping up with the portfolio that they were given. Now, we have state governors, we have local government chairmen, we have councillors. That's what they call JAC, monthly allocation from the federal government given to the state governors. The state governors actually meant to ensure that those at the grassroots level get the dividend of these monies.
Yes.
We are not holding the state governments accountable. Is it that the people do not know? Is it that the president doesn't understand that the state governors need to make accountability on the monies given to them and project transparently on the local governments?
You know, we have a mixed breed of Siamese oligarchs at the helms of affair who believe that they are law in themselves, and that in its own right have really turned what we should be calling democracy to be a kind of a charade and an oligarchy system, whereby you can't even chant against a local government chairman on how he maybe malfrequently defraud the entire treasury of the local government, even state and all that. We have continuously had this. What I expect is the fact that the more we wait for all this, to me, this reading of your report, and you are being given 20 minutes to read, you don't need to come and deceive us with the fact that telling us your stories. We need to see it. You don't need to read it to us.
Exactly.
The citizens will be the one to tell that, oh, you want to beat them. You don't procrastinate. What we expect is the fact that on a daily basis, what did you achieve today in your ministry? On a weekly basis, what is your performance indicator? We have the coordinating SA Adiza Bala Mohammed. What's she doing? Is that office just a figurehead? Because she needs to be giving us update of what Yisom Wike is doing. Yisom Wike has already transmitted the entire ministry of Federal Capital Territory into Rivers State, and he has used that as a crisscross, and it's really unfortunate that we are seeing that, and Mr. President, you cannot sanction. They turn everything into politics.
Now, that is
that's
why it's actually quite abhorrent to see that the House of Reps today were arguing about what national anthem should be retained when Nigerians are literally struggling to breathe. When I mean struggling to breathe, we are having a strangulated economic system. You can understand that the policies that are being implemented are really not helping, and they're not people friendly, whether we like it or not, regardless of what the president inherited. So the question now is, what should be done as soon as possible? Political gladiators and party members are looking ahead of 2027. Will there be in Nigeria if things are not done right by 2027?
You know, we are a cat with 9 lives in this country, and we are susceptible to any crisis, and that has really made our leaders to take advantage of our meekness, because Nigerians are very good at always willing, but when it comes to challenging government is not about political party. You can have somebody from Labour Party and he cannot even perform. Doesn't mean that is about the party. We have had PDP, we have had different political party, but what has been the difference is the fact that we lack political orientation. Until when government and those at the ends of affairs have that tutelage, because you cannot just be having people who lack the mental capacity or what the citizens need. Those at the National Assembly do not even know their checks and balancing powers. They just want to be a rubber stamp, want to get the favor of Mr. President. And that is really wrong. They need to be the one watching over those ministers that are unperforming and calling for their sack.
Did you see the fights in Cross River State yesterday at the National Assembly?
That is really wrong. You know, it goes to show what is happening in Rivers
These are
State,
members are meant to be deliberating on how to improve the lives of those who represent their constituents.
Let me tell you one thing. We have been used to this throwing of maize as far back many years.
This was beyond throwing of maize. This guy used elbow.
Because it is not different from when a senator just removed the maize. What's the name of the former deputy senate president? That they just removed the maize and he just walked out. These are just madness that have been and now Christian as part of our democracy, because nobody is sanctioning just for doing that alone. It's a criminal offense. As a lawyer, that person who committed that infraction there is a criminal offense and needs to be jailed. But because somebody somewhere want to be to reap from those evil, and that is the way this country is wired, and we're always looking for who to blame. For me, we need to pick up our loins and guard the process. Don't allow the process to drown all of us. Let us challenge the government for the fact that I'm one of the people that gave support to the present administration. I will have to
You gave support to this administration.
Definitely.
What would you say for now? Are you happy with your support?
Well,
are you impressed actually?
For the fact that this is where we are, I'm not happy.
So where is the president getting it wrong? Or he didn't even know at all?
No, the president meant well. And that's why I mentioned something that the president increased, tripling the monthly allocation. And that is commendable of him. He's been the only president that listens. Even when you make noise in the morning, you will find a solution before evening. We had the Buhari that is here. He had a eardrum problem. We've had the Jonathan that he will never want to come down to listen to the people, because we are used to leaders who are just sit tight and they will never want to listen to people. But for the fact that his listening is somehow injurious to our people.
Is a renewed hope agenda being reflected?
The renewed hope agenda is reflecting in some critical area, but the funniest thing is
critical areas is it reflecting on?
In the area of infrastructure, they are making some progress in the area of infrastructure, but where it ought to really come down on is food.
Exactly.
Food. If Mr. President is not doing anything meaningful in respect of food, because that is the staple thing that when Nigeria is a citizen, you can't buy one cup of gari again. You can't even, people beg. Rich men now beg. Maybe you are just telling me a pinch of information. I'm more also vast in the system. I see how people are more ruined. The only place people find joy now is go to church and still come back home the same way. So we're only just trying to get ourselves happy without anything to show and give us that normalcy. Okay. I want to implore, it's not just about our president. All governors must sit right. Our assembly members must sit right. It's our collective, and citizens too. We don't just need to throw stone. Let us cohabit to develop the state.
All right, Orlando Tohasa, I want to say thank you so much for actually being part of the World News at 6. I know you came from a very far place, but thank you for coming into the studio and giving us insight on the questions posed at you. Thank you so much. And then for some of us who do not know the old national anthem, I'm going to read out the first stanza. Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians all and proud to serve our sovereign motherland. So that's what they were deliberating on. Arise, O compatriot, they feel Nigerians are not living up to it, but that we should go back to this old national anthem. Once again, all right, thank you so much. To wrap up the World News at 6, here again are the top stories. You heard Binance executive Gambarian collapses in court. Minority whip stages walkout as lawmakers sack 5 Kano emirs. Ministerial sectoral update begins today. Hoodlums attack anti-Ganduje protesters. That's a wrap on the World News at 6. My name is Esther Machuku. Good evening and thank you for listening.